One summer moment can change a child's life. Through Toys for Tots Give and Go initiative, your support provides books, games, toys, and outdoor adventures that spark curiosity, creativity, and a love of nature. Whether it's fishing, learning a new sport, reading under a tree, or playing with friends, these moments build confidence and lifelong memories. For too many children, those moments never come. You can help change that this summer. Visit toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots, delivering hope beyond the holidays.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
With July 4th continuing celebrations and celebrating our 250th anniversary of America, and as we look forward to the next 250 years, what are we grateful for as a nation? How do we stop the growing specter of socialism and communism in our nation? And how do we get back to common sense America? Here's that hope for our future. No more important topic here on the Dr. Sky Experience than American exceptionalism as we talk about it from time to time, and proud to talk about it, and what an appropriate weekend and an appropriate month to do it. And we open up our show with this tribute to common sense in our future.
2 + 2 is 4. Truth still stands like before. If we love this land we sing about, then we can't let the light go out. I see the flag in the morning light, still waving through the darkest night. Built by hands that worked and prayed on sacrifice and dues they paid. From little towns to city streets, from farmers' fields to factory heat. There's something here worth fighting for, something knocking at the door. We don't need to hate to stand, we don't need to lose this land. We can love our neighbor true and still protect the red, white, blue. Bring back common sense.
Common sense America. That's what it's all about. From the powerhouse blowtorch, Signal, Talk Radio 77 WABC, and broadcasting proudly from the center of the universe, New York City, to the nation and the world, welcome to the Dr. Sky Experience. If you're a first-time listener, we talk about the great subjects and mysteries of the universe. From astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, celebrity guests, and in this special 2-hour iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience, we talk about the stories of American exceptionalism. We like to call our show a sort of theater of the mind, a show where you can obviously join in and participate with your questions and comments. We love it in the form of critical thinking with dialogue, and all we ask the vast audience is to please try to stay on measure in respect to the many great guests that we have. In order to participate in the Dr. Sky Experience, the contact number is always 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-WABC. And while you're at it, if you haven't done it, why not download the WABC app? As we like to call this show a theater of the mind, there are many other rooms that you can enter and spend a lot of time and learn so much about this great powerhouse Signal, a radio station that's been in existence for well over a century. And another century looks very promising, too. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank our helmsmen. We thank Bill and Jackson for taking your phone calls and putting you in the queue. But more important than anything, well, they're very important, we talk about the many mysteries of our world. But as we transgress to American exceptionalism, a very special guest, and tonight's episode is about how do we maintain the republic that we have. As Benjamin Franklin once said, often repeated, a republic, if you can keep it. Our special guest for the 2 hours is author Dennis Kneale, journalist, podcast host, Newsmax contributor. He's the author of many books, one entitled The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, and tonight's special book will be announced in a moment. Formerly, he was a senior editor at the Wall Street Journal, managing editor of Forbes, and an anchor on CNBC and Fox Business Network. His name is Dennis Kneale. His book, called Oregoners, and a brief bio of that is necessary. For decades, Oregon welcomed thousands of newcomers every year, lured by the state's chill lifestyle and breathtaking beauty. Now the state is better known, that is, for less attractive traits. In Oregoners, How One State Chased Away Business and People, Dennis Kneale reveals how progressive zealotry turned the Pacific Northwest paradise into a place of misery, misfires, and occasional misfeasance. He is also the author of many other books, including The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. And with that, we welcome on this very solemn time the 250th anniversary of America. Good evening to you. Good morning, Dennis. Thank you for being part of the Dr. Sky experience. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Sky. I mean, I've always said a little of me goes a long way. So you have me on for quite a bit of time today. It's quite interesting. I look forward to it. I'll be as entertaining as possible.
Well, you're already lighting it up, I'm sure, and the phone lines, I'm sure, as we get great guests that talk about these subjects. You know, people may be wondering out there, don't you, Dr. Sky, talk mostly about science and technology and space? We do. But my time in the military and somewhat in law enforcement for a number of years, and for anybody out there that just simply believes, and of course, that this is the greatest nation on earth, I love to talk occasionally about these great subjects because they're so important to us. But talk more about you. I mean, that's why we have you as a guest. This book, which is really an eye-opener, ladies and gentlemen, Oregoners, subtitled How One State Chased Away Businesses and People. I thought it was just California for a while, but the truth of the matter is you do a really big, deep dive into this. Give us the background, because we have lots of subsets that we'd like to get into about what's happening in our country. And hopefully this doesn't spread like a bad form of cancer.
Well, thanks so much for this opportunity, Dr. Sky. I appreciate it very much. You know, I lived in Brooklyn for 43 years. Yes. I went there to work for the Wall Street Journal. I pursued my media career. I moved down to Boca Raton, Florida, only in January. And, you know, last year, as I was looking for my next book project, it struck me, you know, the thing about New York is they elected a socialist. Kami Mamdani is a disaster. He gave an address for the July 4th that I thought was detestable. I think the guy, some people say he ought to be deported for it. And yet, New York is so big and diverse, this thing can destroy it. And it's going to take a long time for the damage from Mamdani to show up. But in Oregon, it is a petri dish for blue state policies. Oregon is only 4.2 million people. The Portland metro area is 65% of the media market. And so you see the bad effects of stupidly liberal socialist policies show up in sharper relief and show up sooner. And it is a canary in the coal mine for other blue states because they have thousands of jobs leaving that place. Their taxes are the second highest in the country in Portland after New York City. And yet for that, you wait 20 minutes for a police response to a violent 911 call.
Yes.
They spend over $700 million a year in the metro area on the homeless, fewer than 20,000 people, yet their homeless ranks went up 64% in 2 years. So there's no assessment and accountability for outcomes. The people in Oregon have been in an insane environment for so long, Dr. Sky.
Absolutely. I mean,
they
you're
no
so
longer
right.
can recognize sanity, like that 1970s
you're so right.
experiments, the Rosenhan experiment.
Look at the riots that you have seen in the past here. I mean, you have the Antifa forces. You have all the other folks that are, you know, there's not peaceful protests there. And then look what happens, as many people in the radio audience do know, where nothing really happens to suppress this, and it continues to go on. But I got to ask you from a personal note, and a personal side, I should say, what got you interested in this particular topic? Because, you know, it's so important to many listeners, but there has to be this thread that you can give us. When did you become interested in this very subject? Because I know you report vastly on these business topics.
You know, when I was researching my book, The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk, basically it offers 11 lessons of Elon for a better life. I became fascinated with his obsession with the woke mind virus and how it was in danger of taking over. And it's one reason he bought the Twitter platform, is to free up some speech to push back against it. And so I'm kind of post-Elon, I'm looking around, and then in the fall of 2025, President Trump did a very simple thing. You know, gosh, Antifa protesters, a couple dozen of them late at night at the ICE site in Portland, Oregon, they were doing bad stuff. Let's send in 200 troops. Well, oh my gosh, just about every public official in Portland and Oregon was just appalled by this terrible, terrible violation, this transgression, this dictator. And I just thought, there it is, what Elon said. There's the woke mind virus that has taken hold. When you guys can't even get behind the idea of simple 200 troops to come in for a while to clear out these jerks with Antifa, and you guys can't even support that, then you've lost sanity. This is Oregon gone crazy.
Well, what I'm upset about, and being in the media like yourself, legacy media for the most part is just like on the side of this whole equation. I mean, anything that the law enforcement side tries to do is evil. They're the fascists. We're the no good people who enforce the law, and it just totally totally the polarity of everything has just shifted. I'm not the genius to say that. Obviously, it's pretty much self-evident out there. And I always throw a question out to the audience in general terms here, and the one that would be to this vast audience is, what is one of the single most important issues that you would see here, since we're now celebrating our 250th, when it comes to our republic and how to keep it? As the famous Benjamin Franklin said, a republic if you can keep it. And there's so many answers I'm sure that people will call, or questions I'm sure that they'll call in with. And that number, once again, 1-800-848-9222. You come to the front of the theater of the mind, as we like to call it, Dennis, because obviously we're not seen in video at this point. So why not a creative name called the Theater of the Mind? I think that's an awesome way to go. But this is fascinating. I've been to Portland, not during those times, many, many years ago. The Rose City, at the time, a beautiful city, right there along the Columbia River, a beautiful state. But then things are changing. So in your opinion, from your research, and hopefully people will get the book, Oregoners, when did all this transition take place? I mean, is this something that just happened in the last decade? Was it going on longer than that? Educate us on this, because the reason I mention that, this slow creeping cancer of what's happening in our country seems to be pretty much infectious, as you described the New York City mayor at this point, and so many other candidates that are becoming what? The voters are turning out for the Democrat socialists. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I see it as a true threat. My book Oregoners opens up with a quote. All right, what do they call that? An epigram? It's not an epitaph, because that's a saying on a cemetery headstone. Yes. Epigram, yeah. And it says, a great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within. And that's what we're seeing happen with the election of socialists in New York City. And, in Portland, they said, hold my beer, back in November 2024, I think it was. They elected 4 socialists to the city council, and they now dominate the agenda. I'm so shocked that New York City, the capitalist center of the world, the place that has more to offer and more to be grateful for in capitalism, when it ends up electing this socialist jerk, Kami Mamdani. I'm shocked. And part of what's happening, though, is that voters aren't getting off the sofa and voting at all. And so the smallest sliver of highly motivated voters ends up controlling. Do you know that these congressional Democrat nominations, which almost assure them a seat in Congress, these socialist foreigners who a couple of, it's just, I can't even believe it's happening in our country and in our most important city, meaning New York, not Washington. And are we just going to let it happen? The people who won the Democrat nominations, they got as little as, I think it was 8% of all registered Democrat voters bothered to vote for this person. That is the smallest sliver to then end up going into Congress, And
I hear you. It's all over the place. I mean, I'm here in Arizona, and we're seeing the very same thing, and it seems like I mentioned before, a slow-growing, creeping cancer, if you're not a big fan of a constitutional republic. And I never understood this. I mean, going to school many, many years ago, young children, of course, why are they not hearing that we are a constitutional republic, right, Dennis, instead of the word democracy? I mean, democracy can be an interesting subject, but we're really not a democracy. We're a representative democracy, right? We
are seeing, the fruits of seeds planted by anti-American forces 30, 40 years ago in academia, in education, in K through 12. In Oregon, the kids, the fourth graders, they rank 48th in the nation and 46th in math and English, reading. They're way down there, though. They spend almost $20,000 per student. And it's because the school system and the unions there are not teaching America's history. They're not teaching that we are the greatest nation on earth, and we are. They instead are teaching, stolen land and LGBTQ and special intersectionality and political correctness. Oh, my gosh. It's ridiculous. I got in an argument with a 26-year-old friend, we will call her, by text the other day, because I just made a very short reference to third world diseases, among the homeless. Exactly. There's a whole chapter on the homeless industrial complex there in Oregoners. And, I was corrected. No one says that anymore. And when you can make a simple phrase like third world suddenly be unacceptable and racist and somehow, you're way too precious and way too oversensitive. And that's what we've done on a lot of things here. And it's all an attempt to rein us in and to stop us from pushing back. And what happened on social media with the Twitter files, where we learned that dozens of state government agencies, federal government agencies, pushed for the silencing of thousands of conservative accounts that millions of Americans had the right to hear. Our government did that.
Exactly.
And everyone marched in lockstep, and no one stood up and fought back. Look at what we consented to in COVID. My God, the CDC decided it could decree to property owners that they had no right to evict someone or raise rents. Who are you? You're in charge of diseases. Shut up. And we just sat down and took it.
Dennis, you know something? What? This is interesting. You're a man of the broadcast world, a professional, and here, this is so interesting. Right now, every one of our phone lines is lit, and this is an interesting scenario because right away, this is very quick happening here. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Kneale, Oregoners, how one state chased away business and people, and so much more. We go back to the statistics. I've gone through your book here, and I find it fascinating how Oregon got that way like a canary in a coal mine. In 2023, you can say it better, Oregon lost 131,000 residents. That's incredible. Last in job growth, as it's rated on the CNBC's top business states. And this is incredible. A D-plus rating by voters on business practices. But they're letting this happen, and it continues to go down the rabbit hole. And that's why I'm saying this needs to be an awakening for everybody out there. You've been boots on the ground. I don't like that expression sometimes. So you're listening. You're the man who's talking with the people of Oregon. And if we find out later in the show, it's really not the people of Oregon that we're so upset about. It's in the county, and it surrounds the area of Portland, if I'm correct. I mean, there's other conservative thinkers outside in other portions of Oregon, so we can't blame the whole state. But we can blame, if we want to go blame game, it's the government of the state, and we'll get into that very heavily. But you know what? I'd like to go to the callers right now to see if we can get everybody on who has an opinion on this. Let's go to line one. Let's welcome Greg in Michigan. Happy post-4th of July, or still 4th of July to you. You're on with Dennis Kneale. How you doing, Greg?
Good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Positive, boom, shakalaka. Everybody go for your dreams. Great topic, Dr. Sky and Dennis. I've got to ask Dennis, philosophically speaking, what thinker, what social thinker, what philosophy would best represent America becoming even more greater? For me, it's Ayn Rand, the philosophy of objectivism that would make this country even greater if people understood the concepts of the Randian philosophy of objectivism.
That's a very good question. I would jump in there and say Tocqueville, but then again, go ahead there, Dennis. You have a lot more focus on this, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I wish you hadn't stepped on my line there, Dr. Sky. I was fearing the question as soon as you started because it was way too intelligent. And so I was good. And Ayn Rand, I love, and it's not just objectivism, it's capitalism, damn it, it's pro-capitalism. But, yeah, I was going to say de Tocqueville, because can we talk a minute, guys, about American exceptionalism? Now, I was surprised because I love the idea, and de Tocqueville coined it. He traveled through America like the Europeans going to the World Cup now. They're blown away by the bounty of America, by the spirit of the people and the generosity. It's wonderful to see. So de Tocqueville traveled to America. He talked about American exceptionalism. And then, I wasn't even taught in schools, okay? But then Obama talked about it in 2008, 2009. See, he went overseas on an American apologies tour, and he told them, well, we're not that exceptional. We're a seat at the round table. Oh, yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are exceptional. And then who's talking about it yesterday? freaking Kami Mamdani, American exceptionalism. And he's preaching to us when this guy grew up in Uganda and became a U.S. citizen in 2018, and he's going to tell me that America is not exceptional. And yet we are. And I think that Tocqueville and Ayn Rand are two great places to start, Greg, in Michigan.
You're absolutely right. But the current mayor, the current mayor of New York, as you described him, obviously so many people were taken aback, if not very upset, about that particular speech. But then again, didn't he tell us, Dennis, the things he was going to do? So there's really not a surprise, right? Is that a fair assessment?
That's true. Although he is doing the Islamic art known as taqiyya, right, where you're allowed to fib and lie and present a deceptive face to the public because you are furthering Islam's goals and the Quran's goals, and so therefore you can lie. And he's lying. And Ilhan Omar is lying. And the interesting thing was, after he came out with that address yesterday, it was so anti-American and so finger-wagging lecturing from a guy who ought to be saying, thank you for electing me, a Muslim who's barely been a citizen. It shows how unracist you are as a people. No, instead he's telling us we're racist. He's telling us we held people down. I mean, he had to come out a day later with a really positive kind of, yay, America, to try to skin back that original bad address. And shame on that guy. I mean, I can't believe we're letting this happen to us, folks.
That's why we have you on the air, Dennis, because this is important.
For Greg in Michigan, you know what? Yes. Another person we could look to, frankly, I'm sorry to plug it, but Elon Musk, the man is amazing. He dreams huge. He's willing to spend decades pursuing it. Look at SpaceX. He went in 2000 for the first time to try to buy rockets from the Russians. When the chief engineer asked him, well, why? What are you doing? Well, I want to go to Mars. He spit on Elon's shoes. And it's 2026, and he's still not there. And in the SpaceX prospectus, it says part of his compensation is he doesn't get this and this until 1 million people are living on the planet. That may never happen.
I'd like to get into that book as we move into these different hours, the 2 hours that we have with Dennis Kneale. Obviously an accomplished journalist and so many things he's talking about. But the main focus, if you're just joining us right now, how do we keep our republic now that we're celebrating 250 years? Not a perfect country by any means, but the best country, in my opinion, on this planet Earth, and I'm sure Dennis would agree. No debate there. But as we continue to move on with the Dr. Sky Experience, the contact number 1-800-848-9222. And before we go to the break in about a minute and a half, is there a website that we can get? I'm sorry if I didn't have it in any of the material that I got. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm especially on X, at Dennis Kneale, Kneale. Okay. That's my main platform. I got a website, but I don't do much there at DennisKneale.com. It's got plenty of my stuff, though. And OrGonersBook.com, so you can get a look at the book. It's up on Amazon. You know, a big publisher like HarperCollins, I love them, but they'll take 6 to 9 months to get that puppy out the door. Amazon puts it up in 2 weeks, which means I have some errors like repeated paragraphs, for which I apologize.
Interesting conversation, as many people, Dennis, as you know, are still celebrating and marking the 4th of July here in Phoenix, Arizona, outside my window. It sounds like a war zone, but then again, hopefully it's all in celebration to America's 250th anniversary. And wow, what an amazing day as the President of the United States, President Donald John Trump, said it so well. We don't want communism and socialism, and that's not what we're going to have. But that's exactly why we're talking with you on this very subject as we move past July 4. But what's more important than that? Where's our nation headed? And you, ladies and gentlemen, like Sal in New Jersey, Pete in Lakewood, New Jersey, Robert in Philadelphia, George in Westchester, we will get back with you as we continue the Dr. Sky Experience right after these announcements. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Democracy and socialism have nothing in common but one word: equality. But notice the difference. While democracy seeks equality and liberty, socialism seeks equality and restraint and servitude. A great quote from the late, great Alexis de Tocqueville. 31 minutes after the hour, we're privileged and honored to have for the 2 hours of the Dr. Sky Experience special guest and author Dennis Kneale. The book that we're talking about, among others that we'll get to in the show, Oregoners, How One State Chased Away Business and People. Well, Dennis, you're lighting up the phone lines. Let's say good morning on line 2 to Sal in New Jersey. Happy post-4th of July to you. How you doing?
Yes, happy 4th of July, Mr. Sky. I want to make a comment. I believe in my heart, and I am a veteran, and I would serve this country again if needed, even though I'm going to be 81 pretty soon.
Thank you for your
But I want to make this comment. On every American flag should be written the Pledge of Allegiance to this flag of the United States of America.
You bet.
Due to the Republic, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Should be mostly first in every federal American flag, and then not demanded or mandatory on other flags, but any American citizen and American Congress or Senate should be told they have to say the Pledge of Allegiance before starting their workday.
Amen. Wow. This is good stuff, and I love it. Greg,
Yes.
and Dennis, this is powerful stuff. Go ahead, please. This is amazing. I love this.
I'd be right there to tell the Senate and Congress, the Democrats and Republicans, I pay their salary, and they're not doing their job. Then I would take their salaries away from them, just like you or I would get fired if we don't do our job. And I called the Senate and Congress many a times in the past. I haven't done that recently, but I made a suggestion. Why can't we take their salary away or cut their salary in half? Or
Your points are well made, Sal. I want to let Dennis get in on this, because one other thing that I'm going to jump in here in case the time runs out is that every flag that's manufactured should be made in the United States, and any facsimile of any American symbol should be made here in the United States. Dennis, please continue.
Well, I think Sal brings up a good point, and I've been shocked in recent years, in the Trump era, really, because all of this is really about hating Trump. All this pushback is so much about hating Trump, and when he's gone, they're going to miss him so much. But when it became controversial to wave the American flag, we have a couple communities. I saw a story in the Post where they've said, HOAs, don't put up a flag. It's too triggering for some people. Just ridiculous. I mean, I think that 100 years from now, historians will be stunned that a simple phrase, "Make America Great Again," could stir people to violence. It's such a harmless phrase.
Well, like I said, the polarity is backwards, obviously. I talk about space and science and magnetism and all that great stuff, but here, in this honor, when we have you as our guest, the polarity of everything it's just reversed. It's so ridiculous. I mean, people in Oregon are getting away with literally so many horrible and heinous crimes, and there seems to be nothing really being done other than what? Arrest and then release? It's a crazy thing. Sal, you get the last word. Thanks for your service first. Go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Sky and everyone listening, we American patriots of this country, like I said, I am a veteran, and I'm going to be 81, should not fear. We should stand up. Anytime the Democrat communists say anything against America than our flag, we should put them in their place respectfully, always respectfully.
I hear you, Sal.
Put them in their place. Stop.
It's a hot issue. Yeah, it's a hot issue.
Stand up.
Yes, sir. Sal, thank you for your time. Happy 4th of July. And as we continue, we're trying to do this with our show to make America a better place for the people, obviously, that believe there's much more than going shopping and getting 0% interest on a car loan during these holidays like Memorial Day and Veterans Day. We have to look deeper, and that's what we're trying to do here. Thank you for your time. Let's continue on line 3. We welcome Pete in Lakewood, New Jersey. Happy post 4th of July to you, and the beat goes on. Good morning.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. You have to add John Locke, and also today, John Lott. No, that's what I said before. You need an education. You need an educated public, and you need a neutral newspaper like John Solomon, who tells just the facts.
Exactly.
And 2, what is President Trump's weakness? His major weakness. What is? I also use the Insurrection Act in every state in the Union.
Yeah. Difficult things, difficult times. And again, this whole story that we're bringing out to the public here, it's very politically charged, of course. Dennis, your response here. I mean, this is interesting. We got a lot of people here that served our country, and even younger people that haven't, but they're doing something. And we here on this radio show welcome their opinions about what's great about America. Dennis, please continue on this.
I think it's great that Pete in New Jersey called to weigh in, because one of the problems right now with online discourse, that surveys show 40% of Americans are too shy to post because they fear retribution. They fear getting shouted down by all those jerks in their mom's basement exercising keyboard courage. So to call in like this and weigh in like this is so important, right? Because what good is the First Amendment and free speech if we don't bother to exercise it? And, nothing will change unless you complain and push back. Nothing can get better. And yet, if all you do is complain, and that's what we have from the other side, that's what we have from socialists, they keep talking about how bad America is. I've been so disturbed. For example, where is corporate America? Why haven't I seen incredible commercials with flying eagles and Purple Mountain's majesty and celebrating us as the greatest nation on earth? They're utterly silent because they're afraid of being seen as supporting President Trump. Now, Trump, his entire career, has made everything about himself. He puts his name everywhere. He's made the 250th about himself. All right, but you people who hate him, you're so deranged that you can't even love your country, despite him. He'll be gone in a couple of years, man. Love your country and celebrate it. And yet, corporate America's silent. Media not telling the right story. I mean, that socialism on our 200th anniversary, guys, is even possible at all. And voters are actually voting for it, voting it in. Is just stunning to me and ridiculous. And I'm sorry to filibuster. I'm going to give you a quick stat.
No, that's okay. Hey, we want to hear this. This is powerful stuff, and I appreciate your energy. This is a great opportunity.
Everyone talks about, socialism has killed 100 million people. That argument isn't going to win here, because nothing here is going to kill 100 million people. We're not going to let that happen. Okay, so instead, it is that socialism strangles your economy. Now, Europe is pretty socialist, especially in its financial and business policies. In 2008, the U.S. and Europe were about head-to-head in GDP. They're about 14 trillion. Cut to 18 years later, right now. Okay, Europe has grown from 13 trillion to 19 trillion. Yay. The U.S. has grown from 14 trillion to $32 trillion. That's up 120% in 18 years. That's doubling the growth of Europe, and that's because of capitalism. And then up comes Elon, the trillionaire, and it becomes this Rorschach test. For either you're happy for him because this is a land of opportunity, and hey, you earned it, man. You have worked your butt off your entire life, and this is what America's about. Or instead, you're appalled. No, he should be worth $1 trillion. It's terrible that he's that rich. He's taking money away from me. No, he's not.
He's not at all.
He created 4,400 millionaires that day when SpaceX went public, his employees who work incredibly hard. And that's one of my lessons of Elon. You got to work harder than everyone else. And today, nobody on that side wants to work hard. We've got 25-year-olds talking about work-life balance. Dude, you got no balance. Get to work.
Well, we're going to talk about that book in some detail also in these 2 hours. But here's something I want to remind everybody. Every guest that we have, when they talk about positions on things that are happening, whether it be science, technology, we go into the big subjects of technocracy, data centers, what can people do to stop it? People are always saying, well, what can I do? And I always tell them, well, the guest better than me, they should go to their local, city councils and, get an opportunity to express their opinions. But you brought up something in your book very interesting called the Oregon Mic. And that dissent is no good in public hearings, and it's an intentional way of getting people who have a righteous ability to speak. They're sequestered. They can't do it. And that's happening here. I've seen it here in Arizona. We have some legislators that I'm supporting in the local elections here, and they complain about this, Dennis, that they go to these meetings. Obviously, we want to see people, try to make change, the citizens' voice. And what do? They give the opportunity for the citizens to speak at the very end of a 3.5-hour meeting, where the average citizen doesn't want to hear about percentages and go over spreadsheets. They came for a reason. What say you about that? That's an important thing. What's happening out there?
I have a sequence in the book. I was stunned to come across this online, because all of the city council meetings are put online. And they did a simple little thing. We're going to set up a task force. Look at downtown, because downtown has 35% vacancy space. It's going to take 20 or 30 years to ever recover. It's got open crack, methamphetamine smoking on the streets. What are we going to do about it? Well, a dozen business owners got up, and they told story after story that were just hair-raising in terms of the threats and the crime and public indecency and trash everywhere, and the homeless allowed to sleep on sidewalks wherever they want, and the cops not showing up to enforce the law. And it was just so horrible. And the entire time, the city council never once says, not one of them said, God, this is terrible. I'm so sorry for your pain. Not once. Instead, it was, thank you. Next person, please. And it's because Portland has this, and Oregon, they have this anti-business attitude. They look askance at wealth creation when they should be celebrating it and happy that someone has a shot at that, you know?
As you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, a powerful guest here, and we're so appreciative of Dennis Kneale's time. He's the author of many books. If you're just joining us here on the Dr. Sky Experience, Oregoners, How One State Chased Away Businesses and People, and so much more here on the Dr. Sky Show. If we haven't gotten to these callers yet, stay on the line. In line 4, Robert in Philadelphia. Line 5, George in Westchester. And how about on line 1, Frank in the Bronx? We will get to all of you just as we go, well, just after this particular break coming up. But what I find so fascinating here, Dennis, is that we'll get into the details, not only in hour 1, of some of the reasons that you wrote this book, and some of them have to do, seriously, with the leadership at the top. Governor Tina Kotek and her so-called prosperity roadmap, which is really doing what? It's like anti-gravity. It's taking people there and pushing them away in this form of political anti-gravity. What a story, huh?
Yeah, it sure is, and I can't believe now we have a rematch in Oregon between the Democrat, openly lesbian governor Tina Kotek, and I mention that because that's what she leads with. Well, wow, she's openly lesbian, terrific, against Christine Drazan, who's this feisty little redhead. She's got a voice that makes her sound like a college freshman, unfortunately. She could use a voice coach. But, my gosh, she got twice as much support from the Republican Party this time as she did in 2022.
See?
There's not a third candidate, the wonderful Betsy Johnson.
There is hope out there.
In my book, and I love her.
And we got to go to the break, Dennis. Sorry to cut everybody short here, but as you know, in the space-time continuum, the clock rules. More with our special guest, Dennis Kneale, author of many books, Oregoners. Hey, this is an interesting conversation, and we will get to your calls. And you can call in, too, to the Theater of the Mind at 1-800-848-9222. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Mysteries about George Washington as we celebrate and mark our 250th anniversary. The mystery, the wooden teeth myth. Washington's false teeth were actually made of hippopotamus ivory, brass, gold, cow teeth, and even human teeth, but not wood. As we continue, 47 minutes after the hour, thank you for joining us here on this powerhouse radio signal, Talk Radio 77 WABC, as we broadcast to the nation and the world. Dennis Kneale, author of many books, is with us. Oregoners is one of the books. Let's continue, Dennis, with the callers. Let's say hello on line 4 to Robert in Philadelphia. Happy post-4th to you, and thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Dr. Sky, and your guest, Dennis. I really appreciate you. Happy 250th birthday, America. It's a wonderful day. To the prior caller, in addition to Ayn Rand, I would replace John Maynard Keynes with F.A. Hayek. And if you did that, our kids' economic attitudes would do a complete 180. But the reason why I was calling is that this is such a perfect weekend to discuss American exceptionalism, especially with how it relates to the modern left. Okay? Now, a lot of the followers on the left think that it somehow has something to do with people being genetically, quote-unquote, American, and that's not it at all. The two principal components of American exceptionalism is the individual freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution and the prosperity and opportunity that are inherent to free market capitalism. Those two basic things are the reason that we have been the home of American exceptionalism since World War II, when we helped win wars on two different sides of the world, helped rebuild both sides of the world, and produced 50% of all materials that were produced during World War II in the entire world. 50% here, strictly because of our freedom and our capitalism. And I find it highly ironic that the two things that most of the people on the modern left hate the most is our individual freedoms and capitalism. And
wow.
I think it's hilarious when they say that they care about minority rights, because the smallest minority on the face of the planet is the individual, and they don't care one whit about individual rights.
Well, Dennis, I'm very proud of.
Let Dennis comment on that.
I'm very proud of many of our callers there, Dennis. Boy, that's
well,
really
I gotta tell you, Robert in Philly, there, it's a kind of a hard act to follow, man. You're mentioning Hayek, you're saying everything I agree with, and yet if you want to be interesting on air, you got to find a way to disagree, and I can't. I agree with every single thing you said. And if I could just add something, Dr. Sky mentioned a quote on equality from de Tocqueville. He gave a warning in that. And what happened with the socialists today and the Democrats, they went from equality to equity. And there's a difference there. Equality is equal opportunity to make it rich. Equity is no matter how much effort you put in or how little effort you put in, you get an equal share of what everybody together put in. Equity. And in New York, in a recent election, I remember, because I voted against it, they adopted a proposal to make equity at the center of everything they do in city government. Equity. Let's let everybody share equally, even if they didn't work for it. And we learned back in elementary school, man, about John Smith and Pocahontas and all those guys who came over in the 1700s, and they starved because people didn't work hard enough, right?
Well, you say it so well. Yeah, it's like in sports. Years ago, it was what? Gold, silver, and maybe a bronze medal. But now everybody, because of equity, they get a medal just the same for participating. Obviously, that goes along the same lines. Robert in Philadelphia, always a privilege and honor. Thank you, and always enjoy the 250th as we are celebrating that. Talking about what we consider, right, Dennis, common sense. And that song that we played in the beginning, I think, exemplifies that as it goes along with truth, justice, and the American way. Let's continue. Line number 5 and get everybody in here before the top of the hour if we can. George on line 5 in Westchester. Happy post-4th to you, and happy 250th. You're on the air.
Happy birthday, America. And gentlemen, the communist Chinese, their leaders, look at America as their version of Saturday Night Live. Now listen, you invite 100 million third worlders into America, and you're wondering why America is becoming a third world communist country? And then the lies about the college kids are doing this. I know a lot of college kids, and they're as conservative as Barry Goldwater and Ronald Reagan and then Donald Trump. 85% of the people who voted for Mommy Commie were foreigners in New York City. They voted for him. He got 1 million votes. It's been 60 years since that happened. They're spreading all over the country. Used to be, like New York City. It's in Portland. It's all over there. Boston, you got Mayor Wee or Wu, whatever her name is. She's another freak. She said Somalis built Boston. Come on, man. Listen, if we don't stop legal immigration, you guys are just using this for material. That's as far as I'm concerned.
Well, George, you call on this very topic, and you're spot on this. But let me give Dennis an opportunity with the energy that he has in this to respond to you. You bring up some good points, as always.
Well, yeah, it's so good. I mean, if we just let people come here and come here and come here unlimited, the way the left wants to do, they will transform and change and take over our country, especially because the Democrats, I don't any longer see illegal immigrants as anything other than maybe, potential voters, either now or later. I mean, I'm stunned that the Somalis were allowed to settle all in one place in Minneapolis, take over Minnesota politics to where white American politicians are, genuflecting, to the Somali community. And it turns out, 65% are on government aid, and they're spending billions in fraud. And this is just craziness. And I mean, let's remember, Biden let in 10 million, conservative estimates, 20 million, maybe more likely, illegal immigrants, and it is part of Solinsky's rules for radicals, overwhelm the system so that you can then do a radical takeover of it because it was failing. So you bring in 20 million, you insist they have due process rights, what the U.S. Supreme Court just ruled against, because then you overwhelm the system and they will be here 20 years later. And, and our country is allowing it to happen. And if Donald Trump had not come along, President Trump, and pushed back and said, I call bullspit on all of this, from that 2015 down the escalator speech where he dared say, they're not sending us their best in many cases, or in some cases. I mean, and then Mamdani invoked that phrase when in his anti-American speech the day before the 4th of July. I mean, I'm just amazed.
No, many people are very offended by that, and but again, I repeat, not that I agree with the guy at all. He told us the kind of things he was going to do, and obviously he has another slap in the face. But here, let me ask you this before the clock runs out here, and I want to thank George in Westchester for being part of the show with his commentary. Dennis Kneale, what can we do here about this? What's your solution? Let's say you're in charge. What would you do? I mean, seriously.
You got to stand up and fight back and make yourself heard, for one thing. And number two, you got to call out lies and hypocrisy wherever you see it, because the Democrats get away with just incredible hypocrisy and lies, and the media allow them to do it. I don't recognize the media anymore, and I was at the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, CNBC, and Fox Business, and they've just totally turned over most of them, and it's Trump that broke them. And so you have to get on X and hear from the direct sources without the filter of the media. The media that did they cover Tim Walz and what he just did, letting some terrible child rapist stay in the country and out of jail or something? I mean, the incredible transgressions going on.
People are angry. People are damn angry. Right. And people, who knows? I mean, let's hope it doesn't turn into the other side with the big V word for violence, because let me say this, there has to be a breaking point on this. And we don't condone violence on this show and any other show that I've been doing in the course of time. But maybe we have to kick ass sometimes, and maybe that's a little hard for people to hear it. But the truth of the matter is, what are we going to do? Because look at these places. We haven't even gone in an hour number one, no fault of yours nor mine, in the bad dynamics, of what is going on in Oregon in detail, so people can know. And one of the most obnoxious things, I think, if you're a person who's created wealth in your life, the death tax, estate tax, 10 to 16% of your estate automatically gets sucked up. That's horrible. I mean, maybe that's in other states.
Absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Dennis, that's a horrible thing. Look at all the money people have worked, and they want to move that over to, say, family members. And let's say they weren't smart enough to avoid the probate issue. But even that maybe doesn't even protect you. Am I correct in that assumption? If you went probate.
Jim Boyle of Columbia Sportswear, if that guy dies in the state, it's going to cost him hundreds of millions of dollars difference versus if he died in Texas. And the idea that government comes to you in your casket and is snatching money out of your pockets that should go to your children and grandchildren is simply appalling. The state's crazy and out of control. It's dominated by unions. There's no cap on union contributions to the politicians who approve their pension payment and their compensation. And so the unions have control of the place. I'm told that a couple of months ago in the fall, the SEIU, understand unions don't represent the private sector. Less than 7% of private sector workers are unionized. They represent 40% of government workers. SEIU walks into Governor Kotek's office, has a several inches thick document, places it on her desk basically, and says, here's your budget for the next 2 years. The union did that.
They forced it. You better believe it. This is interesting. This hour went very fast, amazingly fast, and you've lit up the lines, and there's still many people in the queue. So if you're on hold, like Frank in the Bronx, Antonio in New Jersey, Frank in Maine, and Alexi in Queens, obviously we're going to have to do this during hour number 2. Here on the Dr. Sky Experience, which normally we talk about the great subjects of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, but wow, no apology necessary from this host as we talk about America's sacred 250th anniversary, the 4th of July for many of you still around the nation and the world, of course. And what does it take to be an American? And again, the people that want to come here legally, that's an amazing subject unto itself. Many years ago, I was asked to be a speaker in the courthouse when maybe 300 or 400 people were at the courthouse in Phoenix. And I felt humbled because I was asked to give a speech of why I'm an American. And you know what? I came up with some really good answers. But you know what? There was tears in the eyes of so many people in there who became Americans the legal way, and something that Dennis Kneale, the power of Dennis Kneale here, ladies and gentlemen, talking with us and his powerful signal. He doesn't need a radio station. He's a pretty powerful guy himself. Do I sound like I'm kissing up at all, Dennis? Hardly not, right?
Well, they ain't calling for me, Dr. Scott. They're calling in for you. But I still appreciate it because I was so afraid I was going to have to tap dance alone for 2 hours. So their calls are really valuable, and I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. We value the people. That's why we call it a theater of the mind, because, it's kind of interesting. I came up with that. It's not a genius idea. It's just that, wow, if you're not being watched or seen on television, and we're not complaining, we obviously have the opportunity to bring people into a theater of the mind. Critical thinking and dialogue. That's what we love. We'll get to all the other callers in hour 2. And if you'd still like to become a member of the Theater of the Mind, the number is 1-800-848-9222. And thanks to our helmsman, Bill and Jackson, for making it possible. We'll be right back on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hour number 2 continues with the Dr. Sky Experience. We're from the Powerhouse Blowtorch Signal, Talk Radio 77 WABC. Proud to be broadcasting from the center of the universe, New York City, to the nation and the world. And as we celebrate the 4th of July and America's solemn 250th anniversary, we welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to our Theater of the Mind conversation. Normally the subjects that we talk about, if you're a first-time listener, the mysteries of the universe, astronomy, space, aviation, weather, with celebrity guests. And we've chosen appropriately to have these 2 hours dedicated to America, American exceptionalism, with a very special guest, Dennis Kneale. His book that we're talking about, among others, Oregoners, How One State Chased Away Business and People. Who's Dennis Kneale? He's a journalist, a podcast host, and Newsmax contributor. He's the author of The Leadership Genius of Elon Musk. Formerly was a senior editor at the Wall Street Journal, managing editor of Forbes, and an anchor at CNBC and Fox Business Network. Thank you, Dennis, for spending the time with us. You're a powerful guy in the world as far as giving us this energy that we like to hear about America and the great republic that we are. Let's continue with the callers because so many people want to get in on the line. He's been patient on line 2. Antonio in New Jersey. Good morning. You're on the air with Dennis Kneale.
Good morning, Dr. Sky. Thank you for taking my call. I enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
I was just wondering, when you first came on the air, you played a song, but you didn't say the name or who the artist was. It sounded like a really nice song. I was wondering.
I will promise to get that out to everybody, and I'm sorry that I'm not even looking at the screen right now, but I do appreciate that. And the good helmsman, I'm sure, will help me on this because we only play, as we have time available, a short part of that. But the main thesis of that, as you probably heard, was Common Sense America, something very important. But Antonio, if you have questions for Dennis, he's there for you. And your comment, go ahead, please.
No, you don't take it negatively, but I was just calling about the song because it sounded really nice, and I was wondering.
Well, I promise we will get that before the hour's out. If you're kind enough to stay with us and not change the dial, we will get that information up to you. That's something I found the other day, and we did put that on the air. It's all about Common Sense America, but we'll get you the answer on the air as to who that is and the author of that song. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much.
You appreciate it. Wow. Dennis, this is amazing. The song that we played, I should be better at having this in front of me, but I'm not looking at a screen right now.
Right.
Let's continue
can I
on.
Offer you a quick bit here before your next caller?
Go ahead.
Because you've made it clear that conversation, discussion, debate are so important, especially now as we try to stop America from an internal takeover of socialism, standing up and fighting back. And yet, why is it that my liberal friends are unable to have a conversation with me? Now, I have a series of people who I love, and they won't talk to me anymore. And finally, one guy, I've known him 50 years. And I said, why are you not responding? You're not. And he said, look, it's just that I feel like a guy I've known my whole life has suddenly discovered God or something, and all he wants to talk about is the baby Jesus. But I'm talking about what's going on in America right now. I mean, and I think the reason, there's a guy I've been emailing for 2 years. I know he's opening my emails. He never responds. And it's because I like Trump. It's because I'm a conservative. But the liberals have stopped debating because they know that they've lost control of this entire thing, and they know that they're wrong. That's what I wanted to posit to you.
You took the words right out of my mouth because we talk about this all the time. We talk about critical thinking with a dialogue. And you're right. We could have the best information in the world, all of our facts and figures, not like we're reading them from a teleprompter, just knowing what we're talking about. It comes from the heart. It comes from our vocal cords. And you're right. It's like shut down in many cases. Nobody wants to hear it. Get out of my way. And then sometimes it turns to fists, and that's not good. Certainly not at all. But you bring up a very, very good point. Going back to Antonio, what we're hearing from our helmsman here, and again, I apologize for not having this right away. If you go on to YouTube, just Google Common Sense America. That's the title of the song, and you'll get to see that. And again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being interested in what we call Common Sense America, what we're talking about with Dennis Kneale, what's happening in other parts of the country, like an infectious cancer that's seemingly spreading. But you too, ladies and gentlemen, have an opportunity to slow it down. Let's go to line number 3. We welcome Stu in Brooklyn. Good morning. You're on with Dennis Kneale. Thanks for your time and your patience. Go ahead there.
I have no patience anymore. But
you put up with the whole delay there. Thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
If you look at a classic definition of insurrection, what we have isn't a political difference in the sense we're used to, where it's over policy. It's disagreement over how to get to the same end. But you have a people who are preaching and using tactics designed for one purpose, the overthrow of the existing government and the takeover and control of power. That is insurrection. And under federal law, it is a criminal offense. And I think that the answer to deal with it is to invoke all of the potential methodologies we have for counterinsurgency. And if you are familiar with it at all, since it's not classified anymore, I'll mention one thing. If you're curious, Google Project Avocado.
Say that again. I didn't quite understand what you just said. So the audience.
Google Project Avocado.
Avocado. Okay, now I heard you. Go ahead.
Project Avocado.
We will do that. And Dennis, your response. I think, again, we get the greatest callers on this. They're full of power as far as their energy to America.
Yes. And by the way, Stu in Brooklyn, I was in Brooklyn for 43 years, baby. I moved only in January. I loved it for much of the time I was there. I cannot hear the name Stu without remembering a great line from Coach, where the coach's daughter has a boyfriend who's a Stuart, and the coach calls him Stu, and he says, "When you call me Stu, you take the art out of my name." So insurrection.
Like
the only thing is, how can we charge anyone with insurrection, Stu in Brooklyn, if the voters are voting socialists into office? That ain't insurrection. That's stupidity taking over.
Yeah, it's amazing. Stu, thank you. You bring up some insightful points here. Very powerful stuff here. Moving along here, and we're giving, of course, our guests that move into the theater of the mind the opportunity to speak. Line number 4, Nick in Virginia. You're on the air with Dennis Kneale. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Dr. Sky.
Yes, good morning.
Hello.
Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I had a discussion with a coworker the other day, and he's a college graduate, typical leftist-thinking college graduate, and he brought up the preamble to the Constitution, where words were promote the general welfare, and I said the preamble was written in 1787, and welfare programs didn't exist till the 20th century, and these young people are really confused about everything, and welfare programs were a democratic solution to poverty, and it was a complete failure. And if you were to describe in one word what America is about, Robert had from Philadelphia had it right. It's freedom.
You bet.
And it's ironic that the college graduates today and the ancestors of slaves want to go to socialism and communism that is totally opposite of freedom. They enslave people, and they call everybody workers, and they will put you to work. You're not going to sit around and get welfare checks in the socialist communist countries.
No, you're not.
And also, the Industrial Revolution would have ended the Civil War anyhow. It was a shame. And that was, a real good example, I think, of American exceptionalism. We created all of these great inventions during that time, and we were the first ones, like in probably one of the biggest cities in the world to eliminate horses and bring in automobiles. So we have really led the world, I think, in all of history. And if I was to say one more thing about what's going on today, is if you elect, hire, or appoint people using DEI, people DIE.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you say it so well. It's amazing, Dennis. We get all these great callers coming in here with common sense, and I love it. But your turn, Dennis. I mean, what's there to say? Because Nick said, I think, a very profound bit of information there for the audience.
Well, yeah, he unpacked a lot there that promote the general welfare, and I love that he points out. So that was written in 1787 or something, and they weren't talking about welfare programs. And what they were talking about, I think, is making the economy free enough for a man at the time to be able to build his own business if he wanted. The original words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I remember learning this in college. The original line was life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Because in the American spirit, property, ownership is happiness. And we know that capital, that is the ship of business or whatever, it rises in value a lot more than wages. And while people complain, Piketty in the Capital of the 21st Century, a book that set a world record literally on Amazon for being bought by so many people but read by so few, he wants to cap, the wealthiest and put 2% into some fund or something, when really if you let people scrap for themselves and push, they will then enjoy the fruits of their labors. We're so upset that Jeff Bezos is worth $250 or $300 billion. That's just too much. Hey, man, the guy has 2 million businesses using his platform so that they have livelihoods. He's got 2 million employees.
Right. You try running those businesses. Right. Not you, but right.
Great stuff at good prices overnight. I mean,
you try running those businesses and see how difficult that would be. Right. I mean, you have to have a special set of talents in your brain to partition all this stuff, because everything in the business world is a risk, right? There's no guarantee. I mean, everything is a risk. And look at the people who have created wealth. It's a risk. Yeah, you could lose everything if you made the wrong decision. Right.
90% of new businesses fail, and we forget that. So capitalism is the single biggest resource we have to keep America going, because a rising tide can lift all boats. During Trump's first term, for the first time ever in 50 years of record keeping, the gap between black and white unemployment narrowed. Black and white unemployment was always twice white unemployment in good and bad times, but that gap closed. Blacks were making so many gains in the first term of Trump, and it's why Trump I think he doubled his black vote by the second time he ran, or was it the third?
I'm not sure, but the callers keep coming in here. Trying to do my job here as the host to make sure everybody at least gets an opportunity to be heard. Let's say good morning on line one. He's been patient if he's there. Alexi in Queens. Happy 4th of July and 250th. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Same to you and your guest. Listen, I've been listening to your callers and your guests, and I have this to say. First and foremost, the United States is an infantile country. It is a baby. It is only 250 years. You have other cultures in Persia and China. They've been around for 4,000 or 5,000 years. They've gone through different regimes, different changes, different leaders, so on and so. But they have persisted. The problem with the United States is it is still in this simplistic stage where anything can happen if there is no discipline and order. The Republicans, they've been in power 2016 to 2020 and 2024 to the present. And what do we see? The same problems that are still there. The massive fraud in Minnesota, Los Angeles.
Exactly.
You have illegal, you still have 25 million illegals running around the streets despite the INS and all these other groups.
Mm-hmm. You're right,
point of it is, you want to elect people on a local level with a conservative party. Trump, sure, he's the boss, he's the president, he was elected. But that is meaningless when you look at the problem. The mayors and governors and judicial departments of each state, they're all Democrats. Now they're
well, Alexei, look, you say it so well, and the reason I compliment you is you've called many times, and I appreciate your call, and you've described, without naming the country, of course, you've come from a country which was not free. So if anybody that's called so far, from what you're describing, and all the callers have a great, set of opinions here. But you, of course, as you've talked to us many times, you've told us the differences, because you lived under that, as to why America is such a special place. Dennis, it's an opportunity to share with Alexei, because he brings up all politics are local, and I'm not the one who invented that. But please continue, Dennis.
Well, Alexei, I noticed I was writing down some notes on what you said, and I may have got it wrong because that's what journalists do. But you said the problem with the U.S. is no discipline and order. And you're absolutely right in some ways, but we can't enforce that discipline and order unless we win elections. And then you need more than kind of 8% of Democrats to bother voting, as they just did in New York City, right? But also, Alexei, forgive me, but I like to sell the hope. I am an optimist. I feel like hope is a decision. And as much as you say nothing's changed, nothing's improved, I mean, isn't it true, though, that, okay, under President Trump, we have federal we have federal workers, the total we're employing, down to 1993 levels, okay? Hundreds of thousands have left the employ of the government. That's a great thing. We have tax cuts that have kicked in, and they continue to augur well for the economy. We have the stock market continuing to hit all-time highs, even though University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers keep plumbing all-time lows. Why that gap? And it's because of those who hate Trump are pessimistic about the economy, and yet you've got to be, capitalism is optimism monetized. You've got to be optimistic and have hope and see the good. And so I think good things are happening in America. I think we have pushed back against this incredible socialist tide that started probably with Obama's campaign in 2008.
Yes.
And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful.
Well, Alexei, thank you for your commentary. I appreciate you, as always, calling the Dr. Sky Experience. Have a great 4th of July weekend. Let's move on to line 5. We welcome Alice in Ohio, the Buckeye State. You've been patient, and you're on with Dennis Kneale. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. I'll be quick. We need to go one step further, Sal's suggestion. At the beginning of each session in the House and the Senate, say the Pledge of Allegiance. If some of these people with socialist leanings have a problem with that, and needs to be highlighted, we need to make English the official language of the United States, and that needs to be a requirement in order to become a citizen. We need to rein in these cities. There's one in Michigan, I can't think of the name, that is taking over. And they even told a Christian pastor he wasn't welcome. We need to enforce what we say, walk the walk, and stop talking the talk.
You're so right, Alice. I think it's Dearborn, Michigan, that you might be talking about.
Yes, right. You're correct. Yes, yes. That's all I have to say. I am so upset with what's going on. I'm 84 years old. I have seen a lot, and I was based in another country for 5 years. I was very fortunate, but I was so grateful to come back here. We have the best thing in the world going for us. We need to rein in these people who are trying to undermine us. It's our own freedoms that is hurting us.
Exactly. And you're bringing up something good, Alice, not to steal Dennis's thought here. But maybe there should be some kind of way. You have to sign a document if you're running for office that you support the United States of America. You could be of another party, but you can't come in, wholesale and want to destroy this country. And certainly, like the president says, no room for communism and socialism. And I think that has to be, awakened by maybe programs not just like this, but people like yourself. Dennis, boy, it's amazing. I could give her a hug for saying that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple things because I think Alice makes a couple great points. It's just that if we require Pledge of Allegiance from Congress, if we require them to sign a document, Well, the ones who are prone to be socialists and lie about it and just kind of cover up, or the Muslims who use taqiyya, the art of deception, to pursue their longer goals, that's not going to cover them. But
by their actions, right? So by their actions, we will know exactly if they violated it. So there you go. You can lie all day long.
Lie. But when Alice said that she served time in another country and it made her so happy to come back to the U.S., and I think I'd love to give a scared straight program for socialists who are out there marching for Hamas, and let's send you to some of these countries and let you see what it's like there, and let them then find a new appreciation of America. All voluntary, of course, but let the government pay for internships in these other countries, and they'll have a new appreciation the way Alice said she found.
Alice, if you're still with us, you have another opportunity. I appreciate your message to this audience. Please continue if you're with us.
I want to thank you for allowing me to express my love for this country, and we need more opportunities to express this. We need people to not only walk the walk, take action. I'm tired of this. I am absolutely tired of this. There was a woman who was elected from New Jersey who wants to get rid of Western civilization. Well, why doesn't she leave?
Exactly.
That's all I have to say. Why doesn't she leave?
This is our country.
If they don't have it, leave it. Just leave us. We'll be better off without them. Thank you.
My pleasure. God bless you, and thank you for being with us on the Dr. Sky Experience. I say it like this, Dennis. If I were in any position like that, I'm not a person running for any office, but I would think about all those that gave their lives, let's say on the beaches of Normandy and all the other wars that Americans have been in, massacred and shot down in the belief that America is the greatest country, and they gave their lives. I would be almost humbled beyond recognition to be there and do everything I could to keep the spirit of America alive. So I can't understand why. But you brought up a good point. It's about education. And if we don't educate people about what this country really means, there was a comment that I think somebody made. I think it was the Drudge Report the other day came up and said, many of the Americans don't even know what the heck we're celebrating on the 4th of July. Is it just a day to buy hot dogs and go out and go to the shopping mall and get a 0-interest car loan? I mean, come on. It's got to be more than that. But I'm preaching to the choir, but we're in the theater of the mind. So we got about 3 minutes before the big break, the hard break, as you know, as a broadcaster. So please continue. This is a powerful subject. I'm sorry we haven't even gotten to half of the Oregon things, but we will.
Yeah, you mentioned the education system, and let's remember, 92% of the college professors at universities across the nation are liberal, super liberal Democrats. 90% of the donations from the employees at the Federal Reserve in Washington go to Democrat campaigns. Washington, D.C., I think, voted some overwhelming percentage, even for Biden and for any Democrat. So even if we were to change and take better control of Congress, the Republicans, the conservative part movement, you're not going to change that bureaucracy until you oust them the way Trump has been getting rid of hundreds of thousands of federal bureaucrats who have been in place for decades, and they're as Democrat as can be. So we talk about diversity makes America great, but there's no diversity of voice in government and academia. My goodness, how about some more diversity of point of view?
Right. Well, this is an amazing conversation here. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to join in this conversation, we call it the Theater of the Mind, 1-800-848-9222. We'll do our very best to get you on the air. And I will pledge to you, Dennis, that we'll try to get back to more of what's in your book, Oregoners, to set the stage for what's not happening in that state in a positivity way, and also talk about how we hope that doesn't spread. But within the minute or two before the break here, I'm just hoping that Governor Tina Kotek, her challenger in the gubernatorial election, just real briefly, Christine Drazan, as you talk about, I hope she has a really good chance of moving forward to become the next elected governor of Oregon. What say you?
This would be the first time Oregon has elected a Republican governor since 1982. Okay, and Governor Kotek, the Democrat, is way down in the polls for approval rating. Even in the Portland area she represented in the House for 15 years, she has terrible ratings. 40% of people there say they see leaving the area within the next 5 years. She has a great chance. Where is the National Republican Party? She's got very little money, and the Republican Party in Oregon is kind of like, I've said this before, the Washington Generals that are paid to lose thousands of games to the Harlem Globetrotters. That's what the Republican Party is there, and that's what the Republican Party is in Washington, where they won't even enact President Trump's agenda because they know, hey, dude, you're gone in a couple of years. So
more with Dennis Kneale, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, only 32% of registered voters are Democrats in Oregon. So there's some hope for Christine Drazan if things can change. We'll be right back with you, ladies and gentlemen, and our special guest, Dennis Kneale, just after these breaks.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
More mysteries of President George Washington. The mystery of the swearing parrot. According to an amusing oft-told legend, his step-granddaughter claimed that his pet parrot, Polly, had to be moved away from his funeral because it learned to mimic Washington's profanity-laced rants. That happened a long time ago. Great mysteries from the 250th anniversary of the United States. 31 minutes after the hour, we continue How Time Flies with Dennis Kneale. An interesting guest, ladies and gentlemen, full of energy. And if we could look at you, you'd be like a supernova in the universe, a powerful, radiant energy. Let's talk a little bit.
I love that. Can I, a quick question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was in the Smithsonian years ago when I was an intern at the Washington Post, and I saw those wooden teeth said to be worn by George Washington, who was in a lot of pain. So how does it turn out that the real teeth included kind of human teeth and it was made of pig bone or something? You said, where is that from? And how did that wooden thing get misunderstood and then perpetuated for 200 years?
Who the heck knows? But see, imagine that hippopotamus bone. Wow. How do you get a bone out of a hippopotamus without, like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That's incredible. So you actually saw the teeth? That's amazing.
I remember seeing the teeth in the Smithsonian. This was a summer in 1979, and I was at the Washington Post working for Bob Woodward.
Oh, really? I heard of him. It's something about Watergate. There you go. A long time ago.
Yeah,
wow.
Literally, truly, yeah.
Well, let's continue with the calls because obviously I haven't even gotten to half the things I want to ask you. We need like 62 hours to do this. Let's say good morning on line 3 to Dave in Staten Island. He's been patient. You're on with Dennis Kneale.
Harry, I would like to make a statement referring to the call voting without assimilation. That's how Madame, whether it's pronounced his name, got in. They don't want us. They don't want IDs for the voting. That would make it harder for them to do that. Mm-hmm. A lot of them that voted were not American citizens and are not in the records.
Yes, Dennis, go ahead. This is interesting about potential voter fraud. There you go.
Yeah, well, I like the point that Dave makes about, the lack of assimilation and America, our policies just allow them to come in and settle and gang up. I mean, it goes back to the first immigration waves, right, a century ago, and setting up ghettos of by neighborhood and by nationality. And I wonder if speaking English, because, a Latino can come here and live for 30 years without even learning English, right? And I wonder if English should be required. You've got to be able to speak good English as part of citizenship, or no, it's good. You're in a community of your other countrymen, and you don't have to speak English ever at all. What do you think, Dr. Sky?
Well, it's very interesting, but I wanted to. This one's really churning in my head here about potential voter fraud. Give the audience an example of mail-in ballots when necessary. I mean, common sense would tell you that people that are hospitalized, they can't come to the voting booth or the polling place. So talk about that for a minute. That's
There's a difference between an absentee ballot. Here's a military guy who's overseas. Here's an absentee ballot versus mail-in voting. Oregon is 100% mail-in voting, and they like to say our mail-in votes are on time and it's free of fraud. And yet, Oregon just agreed under court order pressure to remove the names of 880,000 defunct voter registration accounts in that state. How can mail-in ballots be free of fraud if you've got 880,000 bad names that you're mailing stuff out to? Give me a break.
I totally agree with you. Time marches on here. We continue with the callers, and as you can imagine in the background, I'm sure you're picking up on this, we're getting amazing amount of phone calls on this subject, as I thought we would. So let's continue on, and let's say good morning on line 1 to Martin. He's up in upstate New York. You're on with Dennis Kneale. You're on the air.
Yo, happy 4th of July, Independence Day. And Dr. Sky, I have a question. You said that we most likely have something faster than the SR-71 at this point in time.
Okay, yes, we do. Allegedly.
So what exactly will we do? What will we do with a plane that goes faster than that? Because now the satellites took over spying now.
They do, for the most part.
So what are we going to use it for? What can we use that for?
Well, I appreciate your call. I know it's a little off subject, but hey, this show is all about the great mysteries of the universe. So, Dennis, we take a little bit of an intermission here on this one. Yes, many people in the government, well, there you go, the government, have made some allegations. There's been some leaks that the Lockheed Martin people, okay, the skunk works that built the SR-71, that they actually built an aircraft. And if you saw the Tom Cruise movie, the latest one, they show an iteration of something that has the ability to go into Mach 10, maybe even higher, as a manned aircraft. What would be the purpose of that? You could actually go transonic. You could go up and out of the atmosphere and return back into the atmosphere with something like that. It uses technology that's way above what's called scramjets. They're called PDW engines. So if you want to look this up, PDW engines, when anybody would see this, you would see what looked like donuts on a rope, like a boom, 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 boom. That's kind of an engine that has the ability to do a little bit more than what a regular conventional air-breathing engine is. It's more like a scramjet. So I think they do have one, and one of the names is Dark Star, and that's something that at least people think is actually real. And how do they know that? Because they've actually heard transmissions on radio frequencies of something saying it's coming from, say, New York, and it'll be into Nevada in just a couple of minutes. So this is something that's still out there. We don't know. It's not just scientific. So I appreciate it. Unless you have a call for Dennis, we're going to move on the subject that we're talking about. But thank you.
Can I add something, Dr. Sky? Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
Elon Musk talks about the future of transportation, even short flights involving a rocket that goes up to space, comes back down. And so I think Elon must know something going on some of this, too, maybe.
I think he's probably at the lead of this with the good folks. If you want to look that up, Martin, it's kind of an interesting end to the conversation on this. If you want to look up the Lockheed Skunk Works, Kelly Johnson and his team developed these aircraft, the SR-71. I was very personally involved with a lot of these aircraft. We were inducted into a group, I don't know how we got in because we're media, into a group called Roadrunners International, and I was very close to an A-12 driver who was a CIA person who flew the original aircraft before the SR-71. His name was Frank Murray, and what an amazing individual, telling me that he couldn't tell his family where he was for 2 years. He was out at what we call Area 51 when they were testing the first aircraft. He mentioned that he had a flight one time from Kadena in Okinawa. His role with the cameras on there was to fly over North Korea when we had the Pueblo incident where they took in, that little surveillance ship. And he photographed, he told me, the entire area, the entire country of North Korea in 20 minutes, allegedly at 85,000 feet. But I couldn't get him to give me a specific answer. So thank you. A little off subject, but hey, you got me because we love the subject of aviation too. Thank you, Martin. Let's continue. They've been patient on the line. Line number 2, Pete in Staten Island. You're on with Dennis Kneale about American exceptionalism and his book, Oregoners.
Hi, Dr. Sky. Mr. Kneale. I'm actually calling. My father served in the Army, and he was from Italy. Now, I am an American Italian. My father was an Italian American, and I'm proud. But the thing is, my loyalty is the United States of America. My father told me, you were born here, the United States comes first. My father, somebody said to me, how do you know your father was a citizen? I do. You know why? He served in the Army. He was 32 years old. He was drafted, had a 4-year-old son home. And my father used to say that when they would go in to Germany, my father was in the Battle of the Bulge and all that, that they would put the gun on the Germans or the Japanese, and then they would face it over to him to see if he, if he was a traitor because he was from Italy. So my dad served proudly, and he actually lied about his age when he came here. And when it was time to collect his Social Security, he went down to the Veterans Administration, told them that he was 4 years younger, and he paid in so that his Social Security would not be affected. He refused to be served 4 years early on his Social Security, and I'm proud of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and now we have another subject which we don't have time for. Pete, you brought up some very interesting points, and blessings to all those that served and gave their lives to the United States of America. But we have the recent Supreme Court ruling on birthright citizenship, which is a lot of things that are going on there, electrifying a lot of people. But Dennis, I think Pete brought up some interesting points too.
Yeah, the birthright citizenship ruling is quite concerning, isn't it? Especially because you see on the X platform, people printed statements from the original guy who came up with that provision, okay, in which he clearly basically says we don't mean anyone who just kind of comes here illegally can do this. It was aimed originally at helping former slaves. And so it's really been kind of twisted and taken way out of shape, and way even from what the original framers, as they call them, intended.
I want to get into the little time we have with you, Dennis. This is interesting. You can give us this. I don't know. We'll have to do it. You give us the original part of this, but after the break, you can go on with it. You talk about companies leaving Oregon. And here in Arizona, we have many places to get coffee. You can go to Starbucks. But the Dutch Brothers story, to me, is most amazing. I see them all over Arizona. People see them all over the country. Tell us in short form. We had a couple of minutes. Dutch Brothers, very successful company, moves out.
Yeah, founded in Grants Pass, Oregon, 20 years after Starbucks, got upwards to hundreds and hundreds of stores, expanded beyond there, insisted that they were going to stay in Grants Pass forever as they started moving more and more operations to Arizona, which I think lacks a state income tax or certainly lacks as many taxes as they face there. And sure enough, by last year, they moved everything, most of the headquarters staff, and they actually relocated their base. And by doing that, I forget the figure in the book, it might be $14 million a year that they save that they don't have to pay in taxes. If you're a shareholder or investor in that company, you want to pay taxes as low as possible legally. And so that's why a lot of companies have left. You've got timber companies based in Oregon, which has some of the richest timber region in the world. You've got them investing $250 million in North Carolina to buy timber there because they're not allowed to log much of it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And don't
it's
forget
incredible.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying the company, because I like them. I mean, it's not a commercial for them, but I like Dutch Brothers. I mean, I think they offer a quality product, just like a lot of companies out there. But I'm amazed that I think the correct analysis I read in your book is that they moved their operation right here to Phoenix, Arizona. And it's a growing metropolis here. I mean, business, look at how many people have come from Oregon to go to states like Arizona, to Texas, and other places that are, much more friendly to business from the tax side of the equation. Powerful stuff.
There's a real estate guy in the book who made his living for 20 years bringing people to Portland and Oregon, and now instead he's moved himself to Phoenix, written a book called Portland to Phoenix, and he's making his living as a real estate agent helping people move out and move to Phoenix.
It's amazing. Going to switch gears again before the break in just a couple of minutes. People do listen to our show to get information on what's going on in the heavens. And as you've heard me speaking on other shows here on WABC, this is interesting. The sun has continued to belch out amazing, powerful solar flares. Just within the last few hours, another series of large flares on the X scale. These are higher level flares, the highest you can get, starting in the X category. On the left edge of the sun, something's creeping around to come around. Not to be alarmist, but all during this week, we've seen amazing solar storms. Last night, as we moved into the 3rd and to the 4th, July 4th, amazing G3 storm, a solar storm, that we were getting images and pictures that were sent to me. Even areas like Binghamton, New York, we're seeing the full-fledged auroras, a most amazing display. Get set for more during this week. We don't know how powerful they'll be. And then, as on August the 5th, we'll be talking more about this, a SpaceX booster will impact the moon at 2:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. A telescope might be able to show you on the left edge of the moon the impact of the 45-foot booster stage of SpaceX. We'll be right back with Dennis Kneale, your calls, as we continue here on the Dr. Sky Experience, celebrating the 4th of July and America's 250th anniversary.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
As we continue at 47 minutes after the hour, let's continue with our callers for Dennis Kneale. Let's welcome on line 4, Kristen in Manhattan. You've been patient. You're on the air. Happy 4th of July.
Hi, Dr. Sky. Happy 4th of July to you and all the people that have called in all America.
Thank you.
And as I listen to what people are saying, and there's some wonderful suggestions, but in my opinion, there's one thing we need to do. We have Donald Trump in office now. There was only one George Washington. There's only going to be one Donald Trump. And we need to use him to do what he wants to do, which is to put America first. And the first thing we need to do is dump the crap propaganda that they're belching out in America's schools and replace it with legitimate education and information that people can use to know what's going on in their government and what's going to affect their future. And that does not exist right now. And the other reason I think, I'm a New Yorker, we saw this communist guy just be elected mayor. There's a lot of fault with the people of, not with the people of New York, but with things that were happened that were not done. They never solved 9/11. People in New York know who was responsible for 9/11. Many other people know, but they do nothing about it. It's just ignored. And things like other things like Iran-Contra, blubs that were made by our government need to be corrected.
Well,
and
Kristen,
they don't do it. So
yes,
people
the words in your message are very, very powerful, but it sounds like on the other side that the solar flare has affected your phone. But in all seriousness, you're spot on. Dennis, what an amazing call from Kristen. She's right.
Well, the education system is a big link in this entire chain. You know, in Oregon, Christine Drazen told me, I interviewed her a couple of times, that she talked to a teacher who has not been able to teach math to her sixth graders, I think it is, in months because one kid flips out and rules require you to empty the classroom of everyone else and deal with this one kid instead of just forcibly removing the kid and going on with it. So instead, math has become a homework assignment. And it's that kind of thing that strays so far from what the role should be and what they should be teaching.
You're absolutely right. Rounding out the hour here, I know we're going to have to ask you to come back, Dennis, and I hope that's not going to be a problem for you because we've only kind of just skimmed the surface of this whole experience here with you. So I hope you'll come back. If that's a yes,
I'm dying to come back. I'm desperate for the approval of strangers. So
I love it. Let's welcome on line 5, Tony in Clifton. Good morning to you. Happy 4th and happy 250th. You're on the air.
Happy 4th, gentlemen. Good morning. Listen, it was an exceptional night. I'll make it short. It was just a night of celebrating the wonder of America. And the foot of the cherry on the whole cake for me tonight was seeing Harrison Schmitt, Dr. Sky, and our Artemis astronauts. It was just, the cream, the whipped cream and the cherry, and he looked great. We were talking about him a few months ago. He looked amazing.
91
really
years old.
My night.
Right. The only geologist ever to go to the moon. I've met him a number of times, and not to stand on a pedestal here, but what an amazing hero of the United States. One of the last members to walk on the moon on Apollo 17, for listeners that don't know. But please continue.
So it was a treat. And it also, the whole night, Dr. Sky, was a focus on exceptionalism. And, of course, it took us to talking about Mars, etc., going to Mars. And it was just showing how our country was made up of such phenomenal people and soldiers. And this is really what we're all about. It was a beautiful night, a great vibe, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Dr. Sky, for listening.
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Insightful as always, as many of our callers here talking about American exceptionalism tonight. Dennis, I want to give you this opportunity because any host should, for the power that you've given us here and the great callers. Got a few minutes just to give us a summation of your book because we never really got into all the parts. which I think would scare a lot of people so that their compass can go more toward the conservative common sense version of how we should at least address these issues with government. You got the floor. Tell us a summation of the points that you want to make here tonight.
Well, even though I've spent 43 years in Brooklyn, the reason I wanted to focus on Oregon and its problems is because it is a canary in the coal mine for other blue states. It is people, high-minded, high morals, consistently trying to do the right thing without focusing on the bad outcomes. And so there's a warning sign there. And yet the state may be in play. There could be a Republican-elected governor for the first time since 1982, if only people will stand up and fight back and make themselves heard. I appreciate so much being able to come on your show. I'd love to come along on any time you like. And
no, this is great.
American Exceptionalism. I'm so happy to be American. I'm more proud of our country than ever before. I'm so sorry that one portion of the country, big corporations, media, Democrats, are unable to celebrate their country and love it and say they love it because they're just so Trump deranged. It's unfortunate to see, but I'm not going to let that spoil it for the rest of us.
No, absolutely. And another thing that people need to know about is the Antifa forces that are out there. September 22nd of last year, of course, the President of the United States declares them and the Justice Department as a domestic terrorist organization. So amazing. I mean, I don't understand this. I spent time in the law enforcement world. I don't want to hurt anybody for no legal reason. But the point is, those police officers, those federal officers, are just taking a lot of flack here, beyond flack, and it seems like they're not doing what I think they could do. And I'm not saying kill these people. But what's this whole thing with Antifa?
Well,
I mean, it's insane.
Great that let's remember that the Democrats insisted Antifa was a myth, but the government just managed to convict a whole slew of Antifa people of terrorist activities and gave them sentences of decades or even 100 years. I mean, it's an incredible breakthrough. And Mr. Andy NGO, who was himself almost killed by Antifa, posted about it, a fantastic post. He's a great guy to follow. And just amazing that the Democrats said it was a myth, and now these guys are going to be serving decades in jail. Happy to see it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, anybody that's a terrorist, you're certainly not going to treat them and shake their hand if they're trying to kill or maim people. Look at that. Look, just watch the videos, folks, of what's happened over there. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. They have the manpower. They have the ability to suppress this. And I get into a discussion with others on the use of these acoustic-type weapons. I mean, you could take a microwave heater on the top of a Humvee and just fire that baby out there so not one of those people is going to be standing. It doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
But if you're stupid enough to stand there like you're cooking like a TV dinner of old days, well, that's your problem. But wouldn't that flush out the problem? Or water cannons. What about using the power of water cannons? You could knock these people into the 3rd century.
And I wish we'd done that in the 2020 riots. I had people marching down my street, Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, saying, "No justice, no peace." You know what? That sounded like a threat.
I think it sounds like a big threat. Tell us again, how do people get in touch with you? You're giving us an X-way to get in touch with you, and what is that so people can hear it clearly?
Yeah, I'm at Dennis Kneale on X, the most important, freest media platform in the world. Congratulations. Thank you to Elon Musk. Although they do limit my reach to a few hundred views of my tweets, all because I've been suspended a few times in the past. They keep you on probation forever, and that is wrong. I'm trying to push them to change it.
You've teased us with something. I'm going to shift gears on you and move into high gear. Leadership genius of Elon Musk. Have you met him in person to do these interviews? I mean, have you had the luxury of talking?
And in my bio for the book, I say my dream is to have dinner with him one time. I've had an email from him returned. I asked him to cooperate for the book. He said, "Yeah, I've pretty much said all I have to say." Yeah, sure he has. But he responded. And to me, I'm kind of like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber, where he says to Lauren Holly, she says there's 1 in a million chance she'd ever date him. And he says, "So you're saying there's a chance?" So that was me with Elon. The very fact that he told me no is just not yet. No is the start of a relationship.
Wow. How's the SpaceX stock doing for people that don't follow it regularly? I mean, obviously that seems like
the
a powerful...
Dems got so upset. He's a trillionaire. It hit $225 a share. But then it fell to 160. He's not a trillionaire anymore. Where are the stories? Where's the celebration that he lost tens of billions of dollars? But let's go ahead and tax him as the first person ever in history to be taxed for
what his wealth is rather than what his income was in the previous year. That's
Absolutely.
what they're trying to do, and they're openly calling for it. And they're openly calling for lifting all caps on Social Security taxes, which means that people who earn, 180, 200, 210, they'll be paying higher taxes. This is not just going to be billionaires. This is going to be everyone.
Well, his space ventures, obviously, we cover that in great detail. I mean, it's fascinating to see Starship. And as soon as they can get that rocket part that's on top of the big booster rocket to successfully land on land, obviously they're in the process of developing, as with Jeff Bezos, the lunar lander. And the next iteration of Artemis will be the testing, once they develop it, of in the orbit of the Earth, around the Earth, I should say, the testing of the lunar, orbiter and the lunar lander, which will go on to Artemis 4. And that's going to be exciting. And I would do this real simply before the clock runs out. Maybe Elon could do it. If I had dinner with him, I would say, why don't you just send one of your robotic probes there, land within 100 feet of the Apollo 11 sacred location, and show us once and for all, it's not photoshopped, that we really did land and 12 humans did walk on the moon in the month of July 1969. Wouldn't that be cool?
Your words, Dr. Sky, to Elon Musk's ears, sir. I hope someone sends him this. Because that's such a great idea. Because I've been fascinated with that whole theory and the Stanley Kubrick and the falling light and all of that stuff. And I am, unfortunately, a sucker for conspiracies, so I'd love to see them debunked.
Absolutely. Just an amazing time. Dennis Kneale, the book that we were going into and haven't finished and completed it, ladies and gentlemen, Oregoners, subtitle, How One State Chased Away Business and People. How'd you celebrate your day? Tell us on 4th of July.
I got up at 7 in the morning. I am without outdoor space for the first time in 40 years. Went over to my mom's, got my new Weber grill, and started cooking, and came back with brats that soaked in beer and with Vidalia onions for hours, and chicken breasts, and grilled vegetables, and had a feast. It was a wonderful
God bless
time.
America. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful. Yeah, thank you
Dennis
so much.
Dennis will do it
for your
again.
time. Okay.
Stay tuned to 77 WABC for Another Side of Midnight with Lionel as he takes us to the break of dawn with great content and great observation, as all of the great hosts here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. And a thank you to owner and operator John Katzimatidis, and from the executive staff to Chad Lopez for giving me the opportunity of a lifetime to be behind this microphone, and to our helmsman that makes sure that you get on the air. And if anybody didn't, we do apologize. Again, our two special friends.